Hello and welcome to episode 45 of Let's Hear It. Today's guest is Guilherme Monteiro. I'll let him pronounce that. He pronounces it better than me. I can't really get the pronunciation quite correct, but he's a great guitar player. He's going to show us a 1979 Gibson ES335 today. And he's been playing since he was a little kid, playing jazz music and Brazilian music. And he's played with Ron Carter, Leela Downs, Kurt Elling in the jazz world, and some very famous people in Brazilian music with Gal Costa, Luciana Sousa, and I met him when he was playing with Bebel Gilberto, and we did a little touring together. Hanging out with Bebel is very entertaining and interesting and fun. But maybe he'll tell us a story or two. And let's say hello to Guilherme. Hey, Guilherme.
Hey, Gary. Great to see you, man. It's been a minute.
It has been. Pronounce your last name for me, because I can't ever get it quite right.
Man, basically you got the American pronunciation perfect. So, but because we in Brazil we kind of roll our R's. So I say Monteiro, Guilherme Monteiro, but the way you said is great, man. I wouldn't be offended at all.
The way you say it sounds much more interesting, though. So where are you?
Man, right now I'm in the northeast of Brazil, quarantining with my folks. Since like late March, when I saw that New York was gonna close down and I basically got all my gigs canceled. I was like, man, this ain't gonna last 3 weeks. So unfortunately, I put all my stuff in the storage, and I came here, and I've been here since. Did a couple of little escapades in October. I was in New York to work on some recordings that I played on and produced. And just last week I was in Paris playing with Melody Gardot. With a beautiful orchestra, the Philharmonic of Radio France. I think that's where we played, Radio France or whatever, however the Parisians pronounce it. Yeah, it was fun, but also tense, man, to travel around this time. It's like no joke. But luckily, I got tested negative in all the COVID tests and everything. So did the whole orchestra and the band. It was Gregory Hutchinson and Chris Thomas. Great band, by the way. Yeah.
Was there an audience at that show?
But not really. It was a bit of an audience of a couple of people that were friends that invite. I was able to invite a luthier that helped me out with this guitar, actually, because when he got there, it was kind of whenever you switch from humid to dry weather, it kind of gets out of whack. So the first couple of rehearsals that I did, this guitar was really buzzing, the G string wasn't happening at all. So I as a thank you to this guy, I was yo, you gotta invite this guy and his girlfriend, because he was so super nice to me. And so now I have a luthier friend in Paris.
Nice. So when did you get this guitar? It's a 1979 Gibson ES335.
Yeah, it's a beautiful guitar. I mean, I've been playing with hollow bodies for a long time, and I wanted to get something because we were traveling with my band Forró in the Dark so much, and I didn't want to go to the solid body quite yet. Although I traveled a lot with a couple of different Fenders that I had. I'm more of a Gibson guy. I don't know. So I went to 30th Street Guitars and was looking for something completely hollow, I didn't want to get a ES335. I was looking for a 325, 345, something like that. But I spent the whole day there trying out guitars, and this was the best by far in the whole shop. I really fell in love with it. So I was I bit my tongue and I actually got a 335. For me, was kind of if you might as well just go like with the hollow thing. But I mean, like I would say it's the best guitar I've ever had, and it's super versatile. Especially live. On the studio, sometimes I like the Les Paul also because it has a lot of character. But this one, it has this little. I mean, besides like you going from jazz completely and to the blues, right? It has this little knob here, this little switch that I don't know what it's called, but it makes the pickups go from humbuckers to single coils. So you can get a really thin sounding like that can be like for funk stuff or for like little African lines. That kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So it's super versatile. I love this guitar, man. It's just like the treble pickup sounds so good, and the neck pickup sounds amazing too. So yeah, can't go wrong with this. Like I've recorded with it so much, and it always sounds good, And it's probably the guitar that I'm most comfortable playing. So whenever I have to play something on a studio that like I need to get an X that like just makes me comfortable, this is the one, So warm. I apologize for my little amp, but that was like the amp that I could bring from New York that I could carry on, That was it's like a Pro Junior or something like that. Blues Junior, yeah. I don't even know.
Those are actually great. They sound great.
They sound good, yeah. I mean, you can't really like wail with it because it's not gonna take it. But it's it's a nice little amp. I'm glad I have it here though. Like the first, from late March to October, I didn't have any amps at all. That's why I didn't first 4 months I didn't take this guitar out of the case. Like I was telling you, like when I took it out of the case was completely moldy, and like because here I'm by the beach, like I'm right next to the beach. So like the guitar had turned white. I was freaking out. But luckily, I was able to make it look good again. Otherwise, that's why I've been playing with this little, because it's so hot in here. Like I sweat, so I play with this little rag here. So I it doesn't get, because this kind of finishing doesn't do well with water at all. So I learned that the hard way.
You have the reverse problem of all your friends who are in New York right now, whose instruments are all drying out.
I have a Brazilian guitar, so that's what usually happens. Like I have a nylon strings guitar that's beautiful, made by this luthier that passed away a few years ago. But man, I spent like so much money like just fixing it,
Yeah.
And right now it's in the studio of a friend of mine, but it's a long story. But it's like it doesn't have a case for it because, anyway, it's a long story. So I have to be checking, like, like, did you put water in the humidifier and stuff like that?
Yeah.
That's why like this guitar is like it's a workhorse, man. I can check it in. I can bring it and I take it out of the bag and it's like in tune and everything. So. Yeah, I love it.
I want to hear a couple examples of the guitar. I also wanted to ask, so who would you say, so growing up in Brazil, who were your influences as a guitar player? Like, who were your favorite guitar players? Obviously, they don't have to be Brazilian, but who did you like listening to?
Growing up, when I started, before I got into jazz, obviously, Jimi Hendrix and Eddie Van Halen were those guys were like, although like I never really played metal, I can't play metal to save my life, and I was never able to like emulate anything that Eddie Van Halen did. But I got into jazz at an early age, and my first big influence was Joe Pass. Joe Pass is my guy, that's the guy who basically introduced me to bebop. I was transcribing him a lot, and I wasn't even aware that that was called bebop or anything like that. So Joe Pass and Wes Montgomery were like my first main influences. Also, this guy Toninho Horta is a beautiful guitar player, songwriter from the city where I used to live, Belo Horizonte. I'm from Rio, but I left Rio when I was 10 years old. I lived in São Paulo, and then I went to Belo Horizonte, which was great because that's where Milton Nascimento is from. There's like a lot of pretty deep harmonic. There was some like when those guys came out in the early '70s, they came out with like some really innovative harmonic stuff. And Toninho Horta was like a main influence for me for sure, because it was someone that was around. Like I would sit down like in a table at a bar, like just drinking beers, and he'll be showing us like voicings and those kind of. Sorry, he has big hands. Those kind of like weird like bar chords that like I never imagined that I could like do bar chords, bars with like those fingers, But and then when I went to the States the first time, Joe DiOrio. I used to study with Joe DiOrio, and that was someone that really kind of opened up my head like completely for harmony and improvisation. That guy was basically I owe a lot to Joe, and unfortunately we lost contact over the years after I went to New York. But I hope he's doing well. I've heard he was like not doing great like with his health and stuff.
You've also been a bit of a teacher yourself, right?
Yeah, I mean, I used to teach a lot when I was younger. I started teaching, like basically I started my career when I was 15. Like I started playing out and teaching. So I did a lot of teaching in my early years, but after that I don't know, like I just started touring, and like that wasn't like something that wasn't on my radar too much, which right now I regret a little bit, because in these COVID times, like like all the guys that were like teaching a lot, they just transferred their classes to online, and they were able to like basically have the same life, and because my career was so much based on touring since I don't know 2001, I've been touring the world. That was my main stipend, bread and butter. It was just touring, and right, and that just fell through, like
Yeah.
like all of a sudden. So I'm starting to teach more like online now. Like still like very select, like like a few selective students, not too many, but I'll probably have to start teaching more soon.
Well, of course, I think I met you many years ago, 10 years ago, maybe, when you were working with Jeff Hill. But then we got to spend a bunch of time together when you were playing guitar with Bebel Gilberto, who's one of my favorite people. She's obviously, she knows exactly what she wants. She grew up the daughter of Joel Gilberto, so of course the master of Brazilian guitar, I would say.
Yeah.
And so she has a really great ear for guitar, and she cracks the whip.
Yes, she does. I know, like, I mean, it takes a little time to figure out exactly what she likes and what she doesn't like. But I think I'm one of the few guitarists that has that figured out. That's why she basically flies me from wherever I am to do that, to play with her. But I mean, like being the daughter of Jon Graboff, I mean, she grew up with all that music in her ears, and her, like, she'll tell me stories like, sometimes, because João was like, he was like a Zen master, right? He would like get his guitar and start playing one song and play that same song for 3-4 hours without interruption. And Bebel, sometimes she was like a little kid and she needed like to ask something from her dad, and she knew better. She had to wait for him to put the guitar down so she could ask him the questions, you know. So I imagine like there's like you know, like some difficulties, some hardships growing up in a household like that, but at the same time, like she grew up with the most influential Brazilian guitar player ever. I mean, Jon Gilberto, like he synthesized like all the percussion samba instruments into like very concise way of playing and voicing, you know, like the rhythm and the voicing. So there are some basic rules, like the stuff that he would do, like the bass would always, you know, play the downbeats, you know, and he all like and those three fingers would like go nuts, you know. That's one of the things that he did. But besides that, there's like, it's super deep, like it's endless. Basically, what João did is like, I would say like João and Baden Powell are super influential, and they're not even like samba or choro guitarists per se. They have like their own personality, you know, very, very clear, and they just influenced everybody. I'm not a big choro guy, you know. Choro is like a more traditional Brazilian style that kind of like is contemporary to ragtime.
Right.
So there's a lot of like, you know, the 7 strings guitar. There's like a lot of movement and counter lines and things like that. You know, that's like a whole. I mean, it would take me like another lifetime to learn that. Sure. So I'm basically a jazz guy, and I think I play bossa nova and samba pretty well too, and baião and things like that. But yeah, choro is like a different ball game. That's why probably like João was like my main influence on Brazilian guitar. João and Toninho Horta as well, and Baden Powell.
Well, go ahead and play us a couple examples of the stuff you like to play.
Yeah, of course. I don't know if I should play a Brazilian song or an American song.
Whatever you want. Amazing. Well, that certainly sounded incredible. Years of jazz study and Brazilian music study all combined in one. Sounded great, man.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you. There you go. Very jealous of him hanging out on the beach in Brazil while we wait for a giant snowstorm here in the Northeast. Check back in a couple days for the next episode of Let's Hear It. See ya.